Good morning, Maya A. Arbak. Here's the plan. A little bit of everyone. So I'm going to show you little slivers of what everyone's up to. Keep a count. There should be 15. Let me know if I missed any. What could possibly go wrong? Internet. You really have to be careful who you ask and what the question is. Yesterday, as I said, I was not happy because we were told no, there was no potential for fibre internet connection to this property. So I got in touch with somebody else, more of a kind of a head office guy, and asked a similar question. What's the status here with fibre? And he said, yeah, there's cable. What they don't have are what he terms the ports, which make sure there is sufficient bandwidth. So if they're going to put in fibre cable, which claims to have, in one particular plan I've looked at, up to 100 megabits per second, they need to make sure they've got the bandwidth to try to accommodate that. Now, they'll never get to it. Their actual plan is full of holes, but all I'm saying is don't always take the first answer as being the correct one. Sometimes it's how you phrase the question, and sometimes it's who you phrase it to. So we now are told that there's some infrastructure work needs to be done to get these ports opened. I don't know really what that means, but that's the phrase that was used. And that could take 2 to 3 weeks. What we've then got to do is, I've said this morning to the engineer, we've got to allow the electrician here, Bapa Jess, to continue with putting in outlets, switches. We can't delay him, that'll just delay the house. So I'll have to work with the idea later on of figuring out the smart outlets and switches and where they all are and which one is which. We'll figure it out. That's the plan now. This morning, I thought we'd try and capture a tiny sliver of what everybody on the crew is working on. So we'll start here, Painter Willie, back in the dirty kitchen, back on surface finishing on the cabinets. JR is back on door finishing, applying again the black paint to help to give the appearance of a wood grain. Herwin's in the laundry, working on the cabinets in here, another coat of paint. Carlito's gone all shy, but he's been working on a bit of clean-up.
Morning, good.
Sing Enrico, still trying to teach me bad English now, working on cabinetry. Warren, sanding, finishing in the dining room. Oliver's in the home theatre, working on the framing for the soundproof. Bapa Jess, he's just told you what he's up to. Internet wiring installation. In the walk-in closet in the master bedroom, Manny's testing strength of the cabinets. Richard's putting them in. Elston's taking care of music and helping with the cabinets. Our engineer is engineering. And he's painting skirting boards in Sabrina's bedroom. Resty, if he'll keep still for a second, is applying muriatic acid onto the balcony in Jack's room to clean up the surface. Erwin was off on a little bit of a shopping trip on behalf of the engineer. He's back, and he's also working in the home theatre room. The picture of activity would be incomplete if I didn't show the man with unlimited energy. Father-in-law, Bodong, did this all day Sunday, part of Saturday, all day yesterday, and he's off and running today. He's not part of the crew, but Koya Beth is here every morning, always doing a little bit of tidy up, a bit of clean up. Koya Beth is remarkable for two things in my opinion. Number one, You almost never see his face. He is the most covered up person I've ever come across. And number two, within our family here, he has the best collection of socks. Today's not a great example, but he's got a wonderful sock collection. Right, I think that's everybody. I haven't counted myself. There is one of the regular crew not in today. The Tylers, Mark and Bonnie, are not in. I kind of don't really count them as regular crew anymore because they come in when they've got bits to do. Who's missing? Those of you that have been watching for a long time, maybe one of you can remember. Who's not here? I mean, obviously, I know. But can any of you put a comment in to say which one of the regular crew is not in today? Who have I not filmed? Bless you. At the very end of yesterday's video, I said Rich Warden had put in a comment about the cabinets in here. And it was a really good comment, very valid point. He said, by placing the bases on top of the floorboards, on top of the wooden flooring, it creates the risk that now, once again, there isn't really an edge gap that can be filled. The weight of the cabinet bases will hold down the flooring, and that's a risk again that we might have buckling. So, having spoken to the engineer yesterday and today, and he's spoken to the foreman, we're not going to change it. They're comfortable that the orientation of the floorboards means they shouldn't buckle upwards, but time will tell. We've given the opportunity to say, well, it's better to do a fix now rather than having to come back in 6 months' time and take everything out again. They're confident it won't buckle. So, we'll come back in 6 months if it does. It's not quite 4:30. Missed the post-lunch walk around. I've had a busy day. That's not entirely true. I had about a busy hour doing stuff with compost and then fell asleep. So before we go and see what's still going on, and presumably will be carrying on beyond 4:30, we've got a contribution from JB, who said, what country's capital is growing the fastest? Ireland, as every day is Dublin. Right, let's go see what's going on. As soon as I came in the house, Dapper Jess was keen to show me. He's been busy installing the smart outlets. This single outlet, he's done a few of these, has energy monitoring built into it. So in this particular case, we'll be using this where there is a refrigerator, just to give us an idea of how much power it is pulling all the time. In a couple of places, we'll be using them where the power requirements fluctuate, to give us a better idea of those particular applications. Again, how much power do they take? And while we're here in the dirty kitchen, we've got double sanding action. Both Herwin and Willie working on these cabinets. Just when I was getting a handle on everybody's names, the engineer's thrown a curveball. Actually, the builder's thrown a curveball in. We've got one person has, for now, left the crew, and it was the person that was missing this morning and has been relocated to another build site. And we've got, I believe, 2 new painters, of which this gentleman is one. Here's another example of the energy monitoring outlets, sockets. In here, I'm guessing we'll have something like maybe the running machine or something similar attached to this one. I'm not going to show you all of the outlets that he's put in, but here again in the main kitchen, this is where there will be either or both of a bread maker and a coffee machine. Oliver, still in the home theatre. And I had to kind of slow things down a little bit this morning because it looked to me, and kind of the engineer did confirm, they were going to continue to install the rock wall all the way along this wall, but I had to tell them to slow down because somewhere along this wall there will eventually, one day probably, be speakers embedded in the wall and at various other points around this room. And there was no speaker cable in place. So before they finish off this insulation, they need to run the speaker wires everywhere where I've given them speaker locations, including up in the ceiling, where we've designed it so that ultimately, if I've ever got the money, there will be 6 ceiling speakers. So Oliver, instead of doing more rock wool, has been doing more on the frame, but also adding these wooden brackets just to tie things in a little better. At the front of the house at the moment, we've got a temporary woodwork shop. I think this is where Richard spends a lot of his time at the moment. Probably Sing and Rico as well. Putting together more woodwork for more cabinets in more rooms. So I was working again on adding the grain-like appearance on doors, and this time it's between the dining room and the main kitchen. Love this look. An update on the glass for the banisters and the balustrade over the double height area at the front. They are now going to wait until most, if not all, of the work on the stairs is complete. I'm sure the guys working on the stairs are very happy about that. And for us, it doesn't make any difference. Sing Enrico, and I think hidden from view, Richard, working on Sabrina's wash basin cabinet, her Wabaka. Just said, detack more, a little more. So clearly some adjustment still happening here. We can't get in and see it. We'll come back when they're done, probably tomorrow. In Jack's room, Ernie has finished the final coat of paint on the skirting board in here. And we do now have our outlet on the left side of the bed. Can't remember if that was there before, I don't think it was. This is the one that has Ethernet charging ports in it as well. In the master bedroom walk-in closet, this is the cabinet that we saw earlier, and this is the next one, which I think goes on the opposite wall. I'm not certain about that though. Could be the far end. No, it's not wide enough to go on the far end. So we're going to go with the fact it's going to go on this wall to the left between the walk-in closet and the bathroom. All on his own at the moment is Owen, still working on the White House roof, but Elson is helping out. There are once again the 2 builder brothers doing some finishing touching up on the roofing here. That's it for now. Anybody involved in painting, carpentry is doing overtime and will be every day this week. And that means that for some of them, the guys that came in on Sunday, they could end up doing a 70+ hour work week. And for part of that time, working, for some of them at least, outside in very hot conditions. Obviously now mostly focus is inside the house. They're a bit more protected, but nevertheless, 70+ hour work week. I don't know if that's something that you might get in other countries if deadlines are approaching. But these guys seem to just lap it up. They like the extra money, let's be brutally honest about it. But that's a lot of work in a week. Anyway, we'll come back before the end of today, just for one final wrap up. It's coming up to about 5:40 and the sun is disappearing fast and we are getting an absolutely gorgeous sunset. Look at the colours of this. Absolutely beautiful. I just hope the GoPro does them justice. I was just heading back to the house and I thought, oh, they've switched all the lights on upstairs. No, they haven't. That's just the reflectiveness of the sunset. Just highlights how reflective that glass really is. I might be taking this a step too far, But this is not pointing at the sunset. This is pointing at a window, very close. You could hardly tell. I've had a look around inside, and upstairs there's no lights on, so I can't film anything. Downstairs, where there are some lights on in the dirty kitchen and in the home theatre, there's nothing really materially different to show you. So we're going to call it a night with a sky that is just getting even more stunning the lower the sun goes. This is probably the most spectacular one I've seen since we've been here. Absolutely beautiful. I'll shut up for a second. Just look at that. Right. See you tomorrow.